Everybody in this room recognizes this picture. It's a classroom, today's classroom, of people sitting in rows, facing the front, listening to the teacher. 100 years ago, this is what a classroom looked like. Everybody sitting in rows, facing the front, listening to the teacher. In 100 years, this is what this looks like. Nothing has changed. The education system is currently outdated, and it is failing today's students. Students are no longer interested in learning, and that is going to end up failing our future. The school system has not changed in over 100 years, any big changes at least. Standardized testing is far too flawed to be a focus for what we have. And the stress that the school gives ends up causing people mental health problems. And so all of these things have been around for quite a while, but in the last 100 years, not much has changed. We were still sitting forward, facing this teacher, listening to her speak, and raising your hand when you want to speak. But there has been some changes, some positive and some negative. Two positive changes are no more corporal punishment, which means students are no longer allowed to hit, or teachers are no longer allowed to hit students. And then another positive change is that racial integration, which people of all races are allowed to have education without discrimination. Some negatives that we have are an increased focus of standardized testing and an increased focus in rote memorization. Students wake up very early, far too early. According to a BBC article written by Jill Duffy, a teenager's circadian rhythm is much different than almost anybody else. We need more sleep, and we all go to sleep at different times. And this causes some students to be sleep deprived, leading to more stress. And the school's focus, and this hasn't changed in the last 100 years, and the school's focus has also been on standardized testing. Standardized testing is flawed. It focuses too much on questions that you can't think too deeply about. And everybody in here has experienced standardized testing, as the ACT. The ACT and the SAT are the largest standardized tests given out to students. According to FAIR Test, which is the National Center for Fair and Open Testing, standardized tests reward quick answers for superficial questions and don't allow people to think deeply. And this is a problem with standardized testing. One defense that people have for standardized testing is that standardized testing is objective, which the only thing objective of standardized tests is its scoring, if it is done by a machine. Everything from questions, how the questions are worded, the answers to those questions, and how the test is administered are all subjective decisions made by people. The understanding of the brain has evolved a lot in the last decade. We now know that knowledge should be tested as all one thing instead of broken up into bits like standardized testing does. But standardized testing has not caught up. And I too am a victim to standardized testing. When I was in 5th grade, I loved math, absolutely loved it. And I took a math test, which I didn't think much of. And a few days later, I got the test results, and I was crushed. I had failed. And so when I got home that night, I cried. I cried over a 5th grade math test. I cried over a 5th grade math test. And I should not have been putting that much stock into a 5th grade math test that I would go home and cry. The amount of stress that people would have to be under to go home and cry over a test, standardized test, is insane. And more people are stressed over standardized tests than you might think. Stress, at least in the amounts we have, is not very healthy. It affects a large majority of students. And one form of stress, or one thing that can cause stress, is punishment. Now, we've all been punished in some sort of way, such as being put in the corner for bad behavior. But everybody has experienced homework. That's right, homework is a form of punishment, or at least it used to be. According to a Crimson News article, which is a Harvard news organization that is student-led. Homework was invented in the year 1905 by Italian teacher Robert Nevilis. Homework is a good form of stress, and whether we like it or not, it is helpful for students that are struggling. But there are many other forms of stress that are in today's school system, such as lack of sleep, academic pressure, social pressure, and fear of failure. All of these increase the stress levels. And when you increase the stress level, you also increase the risk of developing mental health problems. According to CAMH, which is Canada's Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, anxiety and depression both increase when stress is increased. Some other things increase when stress is increased, such as sleep problems, substance abuse problems, and even physical pain. So standardized testing is a flawed way of measuring somebody's ability. Schools have stayed static and refused to evolve as the world has evolved around them, and the stress we put on students is causing mental health issues in almost everybody. The education system needs to change, and it needs to conform to the students it is trying to educate. This is how we can change our world. Thank you.